What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to my channel. This is Universal Mastery. That is my brand, and that is what I stand for. Okay, what I do on my channel is I break down the occult sciences and I break them down to a very practical level so that you can use them, apply them in your day-to-day life, and get real, actual results. Okay? Now, just to give you a little bit of an idea of who I am, my name is Jeremiah Schwartz. Once again, this is my channel. I've been making YouTube videos for about 2 years now in regards to the occult, and I am fully initiated in Kabbalah. I'm also studied in tarot, being the pathways that connect to the different spheres. If you know about Kabbalah, that's what the major arcana for the tarot stand for. So I'm studied on tarot, and I'm also studied with astrology as well. So this is just to give you a little bit of an idea of who is speaking to you in this video. Some of the people that watch my channel, you already know who I am. For new people, that's who I am. So I am very knowledgeable when it comes to the occult field, not just from a, you could say, historical or logical standpoint, but an actual practical standpoint, meaning I am a practitioner, okay? So yeah, so with that being said, in today's video, I'm gonna talk about an ancient principle that is extremely powerful, okay? Extremely powerful. And when I say extremely powerful, I mean, if you really know, if you can understand what I'm saying in this video, and then apply this in your day-to-day life, or maybe it's already happening in your day-to-day life, and you're just not aware of it, or maybe you haven't heard someone speak about it before, this can give you a lot of clarity, a lot of reassurance, and potentially a lot of knowledge, a lot of advice, okay? So what I'm going to be talking about in today's video, once again, is going to be an ancient principle. This principle, I read this in a book by Carlos Castaneda. The video that I made before this is also on 3 very important principles from Carlos Castaneda's books that I mentioned. I do apply myself, and I have been applying even before I started reading the books, which was really cool because it ended up giving me that reassurance that was like, oh, there's actually really powerful ancient principles that are directly connected to what I've already been applying. So maybe you'll be able to do the same thing, as I said. Now, that's what I'm going to go into. So the principle is called petty tyrants. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to break down what is a petty tyrant and how can you use it, okay? So without further ado, if you want to know what a petty tyrant is, stay tuned for the rest of the video. So I'm gonna go right in, okay? So petty tyrants, this is another one that's very fascinating to me that I happen to come across this in specifically the book, The Fire from Within by Carlos Castaneda, okay? And the funny thing is that I've been doing this since the age of, I wanna say 17, very intentfully since the age of 17. I've probably been doing this longer actually, but intentfully I've been doing this since the age of 17, but I didn't fully understand that it was an ancient principle, and I kind of thought it was like my own little like secret. I thought it was like my own little thing that I was applying. Okay, so if you're watching, you're probably like, what is it? What are you even talking about? What is a petty tyrant? So a petty tyrant is a certain kind of person. It's very, like, it literally is exactly what it sounds like, a petty tyrant. It's a person that's petty, that is tyrannical, okay? So in other words, it's a person that has a lot of chaos. It's a person that is run by chaotic energies, meaning that they thrive on causing disorder. They thrive on causing some form of unbalance. So you don't want to be a petty tyrant, okay? You don't want to be that. You may be one right now though, watching, maybe. I know there's been points in my life before I was diving into my occult practices and really developing myself on a very deep level. I know that I used to be a petty tyrant. I just know it. And when you spend time with other people that are petty tyrants, you tend to take on those traits if you're unaware. Now here's the big paradigm shift. So what it mentions in this book, From the Fire Within, is that petty tyrants are essential for a powerful seer to reach their highest potential. Now, why is that true? How does that happen? Why is that true? And how does that make sense? Can you please piece this together for me, Jeremiah? Yes. Okay, so it's very similar to when you go to the gym, and I use this analogy all the time. When you're in the gym, you have to go against resistance to build your muscle, or you have to go against some form of resistance to burn away the fat, the stuff that you don't need, the extra load, okay? So it's the same thing psychologically and spiritually, okay? Spiritually, when you're around somebody that tests you, okay, somebody that is chaotic in their nature, somebody that thrives on chaos, they're going to say things to you, and they're going to try and influence you with their chaotic state of being. Okay, now when you're around that long enough, what it's going to do in the beginning stages is it's going to really attack your sense of self-importance. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, in order to be a successful magician, in order to be a successful occultist, and in order to be successful in any field whatsoever, you have to get to a certain point of understanding what self-importance is, meaning you can't take things too personally. You can't get offended all the time. You can't let someone trigger an emotion in you and then you ride on that emotion. What you have to do is you have to become the observer. You have to recognize when someone triggers you and remain the observer. Remain the person that sees that this person's triggering an emotional spike within yourself, but that doesn't mean you need to ride out the emotion. And after having gone through this enough times, you get more skilled with it. So the more someone tries to trigger you or attack some aspect of yourself that you may be prideful about, or you may think is a huge part of your sense of self, the more someone attacks that, the more you have an opportunity to say, you know what? This person is run by chaos. This person thrives off chaos. I'm not going to let that move me. And the reality is it may not even be true. Whatever the person is trying to attack, it may not be true, but it may be true at the same time. Either way, if it's true or untrue, you remain unaffected. You just observe. You feel the trigger. The trigger will be there. I'm not saying to not feel the emotion. The emotion will come. You feel it. You process it to the best ability that you can. And when I say when you process an emotion, I mean let it in, okay? If it triggers anxiety, if it triggers anger, if it triggers sadness, if it triggers depression, feel it. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to have anxiety. It's okay to feel fear, okay? These are important things to feel, and you don't want to act like you're not feeling it. You don't want to be like, oh, let me put a smile on and act like everything's cool and try to distract myself away from this natural triggered emotion that has just come out. You want to embrace it, but this is the difference. When that anger comes up, when someone triggers you, when that fear comes up, when that anxiety comes up, when that depression comes up, you don't act on it. What I mean by that is if you get angry, you don't say, you fucking piece of shit, you blah, 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 and then you go like that. You try your hardest to not let the emotion take you on a run, to take you on a spin, to take you with the emotion. You want to be the observer. You want to see the emotion. It's there. Now you understand, oh, it's in me. I'm feeling it. Wow, this does not feel too good, but I'm feeling it. I'm processing it. It's working its way through my body right now, my system, my nervous system. And as it's processing and working through your nervous system, your body is training itself to gain mastery, leadership, control over that trigger. But you can only gain mastery over your emotional triggers once you become the observer. And obviously, it takes time, it takes practice, and it takes consistency. This is not an overnight kind of thing. So There will be times where you go and you get triggered and you ride out with the emotion. I've done it many times where people have triggered me and my anger has come to the surface and I get in their face and I'm like, bah, 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 you piece of bah, 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 whatever. And there, you know, there's been times where that. There's been times where in my past, this is a while ago, where I've gotten depressed and I acted on that depression. So how did I act on my depression? I turned to drugs. I turned to things that tried to distract my attention to get me out of that state rather than just being depressed and staying in the depression, because this is something that no one talks about. If you be depressed, if you're feeling depressed and you stay in the depression and you feel it out and you just feel it, just be with it. Even put your phone down, put your headphones down. It's gonna suck, okay? It's gonna suck. But you will process it and you will gain a mastery over it. And once again, when you do that, having practiced that long enough, you become the master observer of everything. And then you walk around without being triggered by anybody, okay? Now there's something that you need to apply in order to become the full observer. And what you need to apply is what I mentioned in my last video, that I just most recently uploaded, which I highly recommend you check out as well if you haven't seen it yet, which is called, which has the other 3 principles with one that is extremely important, known as being impeccable. And what that means is that you're doing everything in your best interest to follow the path of alignment and balance. So what that basically means is that you're making decisions that are going with your guts in regards to, should I go and do this substance and abuse this because I'm feeling this way? Your intuition, your spirit will tell you, no, you shouldn't. But then your sense of self-importance is going to be like, but I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel it. I don't deserve it, whatever it may be. And then you go and you use the substance, right? So you have to be impeccable in order to fully become the observer. So there's different steps to it. Because when you're making healthy decisions and you're not on a bunch of different types of medications, and once again, I'm not here saying that it's wrong to be on medications or anything of that nature, but I am saying that there is a natural, healthy, organic state that the human being gets into where then you're able to process things much more effectively. So once you get to that organic, healthy state where you're now ready to begin processing things, which is called being impeccable, sober-mindedness, now we can start applying this principle of the petty tyrant, where once again, there are certain people that you can strategically have around you or may strategically just come across your path. It depends on the person. Sometimes you will naturally come across these kinds of people, and sometimes you have to go and look for them. Sometimes you have to go out and take action to find them yourself. But when it comes to powerful seers and when it comes to powerful magicians, powerful occultists that are really working on themselves and learning how to master themselves from the inside and out, we will eventually have someone in our life or multiple people that are quote unquote petty tyrants. And we keep them around because we recognize that they're training us. We recognize that they're training us to not be as self-important as we were previously. Every time we hang out with these petty tyrants, they're attacking parts of our sense of self, parts of our ego, you could say, that are directly connected to these constructs in our mind that say, how dare you attack that? Now I need to do this, or now I need to, I need to act out in this immature way or this unbalanced way. I need to be chaotic to attack you. No. The observer, when a petty tyrant comes and triggers you, the observer recognizes that they're being triggered, they feel the emotion, and then they look at the petty tyrant like, okay, I understand why you did that. Look at your nature. You're run by chaos. This is how you operate. And maybe from this point, I will act on that. Not from an emotional point, but from the observer point, meaning I'm not going to let you cross that boundary with me. But I'm not, I'm not losing my temper. I'm not losing. I just know with my intent that I'm not going to let you cross that boundary. And that's powerful because, as I explained in the last video that I uploaded, the intent can literally put a stop to your quote-unquote enemies. So when you're dealing with petty tyrants, though, they're not necessarily your enemies. Petty tyrants aren't enemies. They're actually usually friends, and you can actually develop very close bonds with them. But in order to gain value from these petty tyrants, and the only time you would want to have them in your life is if you're on the journey of self-development. Because if you're not aware of your self-development, you're not trying to improve yourself, and then someone with a very chaotic nature comes across your path, being a petty tyrant, that can fuck you up. Okay, that can like make you gain their traits of chaos, and you don't know why they trigger you all the time, and it just becomes this like repetitive thing where you're just always getting pissed off all the time, and you're not really learning how to be impeccable, and you're not learning how to use this other person to help train you to be less self-important and to empower yourself. So in my case, back when I was 17 years old, or I'll even say 16. When I was 16, I started hanging out with certain people that were very triggering. And when I say that, I mean, they were certain people that weren't like normal friendships. What I mean is they would challenge you, okay? They would say jokes. Like one of my closest friends was a jokester. He was known as like being the fool, the joker. And he would always say these jokes that went right to you. It's like a joke that offends you, but it's so funny that you have to laugh at it. So I started hanging out with this guy, and he became my best friend back in high school around the age of 16. And then shortly after that, you know, I mastered that, and I started hanging out with all kinds of other people. But there was another main person that I used to hang out with, and I just remember that this person was very triggering. Like they would say little things here and there, and it was just like under the breath, very subtle things that were very triggering. But I recognized subconsciously and unconsciously that I was learning from this person, that it was training me to be more composed, and it was training me to be the observer. And I allowed this friendship to go on for a long time. Now, it didn't have to be as long as it was, because during the time I was also abusing certain types of drugs. So I was smoking weed a lot. I had a pill problem for a little bit, and things in that, drinking, all that stuff. But if I had been impeccable, if I was sober-minded and I was friends with this person, I would have learned everything I needed to from that person way quicker than it took me. It took me like 4 or 5 years to really integrate all the learning experiences this person had to offer me, mainly because, as what I just said, I was not impeccable at the time. But when it comes to the occult realm, and once again developing yourself on a very deep level, you want to have a petty tyrant around you. You may want to have multiple, depends on where you're at in your own self-development. If you are impeccable, and once again, if you want to know what impeccable means, watch the video that I uploaded right before this one. Then come back to this one. But if you want to be, if you're going to be impeccable, then you can have multiple petty tyrants, and you can grow that much faster and very profoundly by having these kinds of people around you. So this is why in the new age, everyone says, you know, toxic people, you got to immediately cut them off. Toxic people, cut them off. Oh, they bring negativity, cut them off. I understand that. There is a certain place where you have to first find yourself, and you have to take steps, right? You have to get to a point where you know how to be sober-minded in regards to if you're hanging out with a whole bunch of toxic people and you don't know how to control yourself because you're just caught up in the momentum of hanging out with all these toxic, chaotic people, and you're using all these drugs and all this stuff. You need to take steps. So the first step, you need to remove yourself from the toxic people. Then you need to remove the toxic behaviors and the toxic routines that you have. Once you remove your own toxic behaviors and your own toxic routines, and you start to get more balance, and you start to understand that you're on a spiritual journey and that you're here to develop yourself and become the observer, that's when you can now reintroduce petty tyrants in your life, which can be exponential to your own spiritual growth. Okay, so don't just write toxic people off. Okay, it's all a part of a process, and you want to know where you are in that process. Now, this is another thing that I want to say, and I'm going to end the video from here. The Old Seers, being 300 years ago, the Old Seers, they are not as powerful as the new seers. The reason for is because the new seers learn from the mistakes of the old seers. And it's always been like that. The old seers are always going to be less powerful than the new seers. So right now I'm a new seer, but by the time of, in the time of my end years, I will be an old seer, and there will be more powerful new seers that will take on my energetic current in my teachings. But as of right now, I'm a new seer, and I can say this. So the old seers used to think that petty tyrants, the goal of spiritual development and occult development being impeccable, learning the art of dreaming, which is like visualizing while you're awake, to a very profound degree, and the art of stalking, which is once again using occult psychic forces to put an end to your enemies or put an end to certain situations or to challenge people energetically. That's what stalking is. They thought that they were developing themselves back in that time to be able to overcome petty tyrants. So the old seers thought that everything that they were doing was to overcome petty tyrants, so they never had to deal with them again. So they developed themselves, they did all this stuff, and they tried to overcome the petty tyrants, but the new seers recognized that that didn't work out. And the old seers, if they were alive today, they would tell you, yes, this didn't work out. Okay, it's documented down in books. But it didn't work out. The goal isn't to destroy the petty tyrants. The goal isn't to develop yourself and then destroy the petty tyrants. The new seers, what we understand is that we use the petty tyrants to continue to evolve ourselves. And as you evolve as a person, the petty tyrants that you have around you are going to evolve as well, in regards to there are going to be different types of chaotic people. People that are way more triggering, way more challenging in a very unique way. That's going to be directly connected to your own spiritual evolution. And this is a process. It's like, how can you go to the gym and expect to build large muscle if you don't have any weights to work with? How can you expect to build any muscle if you're not allowed to put resistance on your muscles? So it's the same exact concept. You need that energetic resistance that challenges your self-worth, that challenges your self-importance. And that's how you become the ultimate observer. And you can, you eventually get so advanced that you control your petty tyrants, meaning it's a dance that you play with them. You understand that they're there to challenge you and trigger you, okay? And it doesn't affect you nearly as much once you get used to that dance, okay? In the beginning, when you have a petty tyrant around you, or if you're around someone like that, chaotic, they're gonna say things to you that's gonna trigger the fuck out of you. Like, hey, I thought you were my friend. Like, why are you saying that to me? And I'm sure a lot of you watching this video are gonna resonate with maybe certain people in your life right now that are playing that role of the petty tyrant. So what you would wanna do is you want to apply the principle of impeccability so that you can take full advantage of that person, because the reason why they're in your life is to help you evolve, but you can only do that first if you're impeccable, if you're coming from the place of you're trying to evolve and you're taking action on your evolution, okay? So other than that, I'm gonna wrap it up right here. I hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely hit the thumbs up if you did. Hit the subscribe button. I'd love to see my subscribers shoot through the fucking roof, and hit the notification bell because I post videos as often as I can. And definitely make sure you go and you check out my Patreon. If you go to the description, it's that very first link at the top, literally says my Patreon right next to it. On my Patreon, I have exclusive content that is not on my YouTube channel. I have a good amount of content on there right now, probably like, I think 70 posts at this point. So some of that content is going to be geared towards actual occult practices that I perform on camera, and I teach you how to perform them yourself so that you get real results. For example, I have a video on how to do an invocation, which is fundamental for your beginning practices. What an invocation is, for those of you that don't know, is calling an energetic intelligence, being a spirit, into your own energy field, into your own energy body, and then taking all of its power, okay? And then making it essentially serve you, okay? So what that does is that increases your psychic power, that increases your psychic senses, and that increases your psychic protection. Okay, and that is once again called an invocation. I perform it on camera, like you see me doing it, and then I teach you how to do it yourself using mantra and using sigil work, okay? So I have videos like that are on my Patreon. Then I have another bit of videos that I like to call educational entertainment, which is a video that's very similar to this. It's entertaining, but you're also getting a lot of value from it, meaning you could just pop your headphones in, go about your day, go about your routines, do what you're doing, go for a walk, go for a run, hit the gym, whatever it may be. But you're gaining a lot of value from it by listening to it. It's food for your brain, okay? So I have that on my Patreon as well. And once again, these videos are not on my YouTube channel. These are only on my Patreon. So in order to gain access to these exclusive videos that I'm mentioning, you have to at least be a tier 2 member or up. So in order to be a tier 2, it costs $9.95 a month, and that literally, if you do the math, comes out to less than $1 a day. And there is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't be able to afford that, especially with the value that I have on there. And that is a fact, okay? So it's a monthly payment, reoccurring month. And there's 4 tiers altogether. So as you go up in tiers, the benefits increase as well. And I'll let you check that out for yourself. But with that being said, I would love to give a special shout out to the top tier members of the Patreon. Their names are going to be mentioned right below that Patreon link in the description. Okay, so huge shout out to you, ladies and gentlemen. I highly appreciate you. And then other than that, I would love to give a special shout out to all of my Patreon members. I appreciate all of you as well. And then another shout out to all of the people that follow my channel, all of my subscribers. Huge shout out to all of you. I appreciate you as well. Appreciate and love all of you, okay? So there's that. Then go to the second link below. That's gonna take you to another link where you can book a tarot card reading from me. So in the beginning of the video, I mentioned I am fully initiated in Kabbalah, which means I'm fully initiated in the top of the tree and the bottom, which is basically the dark side and the light side. And as I mentioned, all the different pathways that go between the Kabbalah spheres are the arcana, the major arcana, and those are directly attributed to the tarot deck. So since I started my initiations, I had a tarot deck with me the entire time. It's the same deck I use for my readings. It's called the Night Sun deck. So I am very experienced with reading tarot. I read it in a very subjective way, which is I'm going off of all the Kabbalistic symbolism that I'm picking up from the card, and I break it down as in depth as I can, all the way from the Hebrew letter, if you get a Hebrew letter, all the way down to the elements, and then I will also throw in the traditional meaning as well. But first, I'm going to give you the reading based off of what my spirit is telling me to tell you. So what I do, the way I structure that is I do a present, near future, and then long-term future card. So then, yeah, I just do the reading. I record it on my phone. Once I finish the reading, I send you the reading, and that's that. And you book the appointment. It costs $40. That's it. And if you prefer to do the reading live, I have no problem doing that as well. So just go ahead, book your appointment, and then pick the time, and we'll see. We'll set that up. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much gonna wrap it up right there. I definitely hope you once again enjoyed this video, and I will catch you on the next one. So have a wonderful rest of the day or night wherever you are. Peace.